Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Natasha Nelson, your life doctor, and welcome to Untamed and Prosperous, your home for open and honest discussions about what it means to be your most authentic self. Today we're going to be talking about life's courageous adventure. You're like, what? So, I have a question for you. When you think about feelings, yours or other people's feelings, do you hate them? Do you hate dealing with your feelings? Do you hate dealing with other people's feelings? You're by yourself, no one's listening. It's okay if you said yes, all right? Some people talk about their feelings a lot. Some people dump all of their feelings onto whoever is listening. And we get to this place where you feel like, ugh, if you're just reacting and emotionally just dumping, it's exhausting. And so most of us just start to go with, well, why bother having feelings? They're not, there's no purpose in them, they're not good for anything. But I'm here to say, maybe there's something different. I know for me, I grew up in a home where feelings were not welcome. They had no place or space to exist. And it's not that I was told that feelings don't matter, but, my mom would give me the eye roll or the silent treatment. And what I took from that was to mean like, oh, emotions are somehow bad or wrong, and that I was wrong for having them. So what do you do as a child if you think you're doing something wrong or bad and you're not supposed to have them? Well, then I stopped feeling them, or I suppressed them and I stuffed them down, and I did everything that I could to not have any feelings and not express any feelings. So I learned to just be happy, put on a happy face. Everything is fine. Everything's good. I'm happy, right? How many of you can relate to that? Just saying, everything's fine. I'm happy, because you didn't know what else to say if that's the only acceptable word and emotion to have. So, when I think back, there was a time where I had to learn about feelings and how to use them appropriately, which really starts from, well, how to have them and experience them in a way that's healthy, that's productive, and also on my responsibility, not dumping them on anybody else to change them or fix them for me. So when you think about feelings, often, people are like, well, what's the point of them? Why do we even have them? Have you ever considered the possibility that our feelings are like the GPS for our soul? Our soul is guiding us into different places it wants to go, and it uses our feelings to tell us which way to go. But feelings don't speak in words, right? There's an intuitive ability to understand and interpret what the GPS system is telling us. So let's talk about feelings, because I feel like, if you can understand one component about the purpose of feelings and how to use them in a productive way and use them to your advantage, somehow it seems less complicated, and just you don't feel so afraid of them. When people, when I had my chiropractic practice, when people would come into my office, headaches, low back pain, they would come in and say that they are in pain. My job as the doctor was to get information from them about the pain. So I would ask, well, where do you feel it? And they would sometimes say here in the low back. Sometimes they were like, I don't know, just in my body. And then my job would be, okay, I need to investigate a little more. Is the pain sharp and stabbing? Does it like a throb? Does it ache? Does it come and go? All of those questions were meant to gather information that would help me diagnose the cause of the pain. Well, the same principle applies to emotional pain. Most people, when there's an emotional discomfort, they just say, I'm stressed, I'm stressed, I'm stressed. Well, stress is actually not an emotional feeling. It's not an emotion at all. Stress is the body's physiological change. So heart rate goes up, blood pressure, breathing, changes of like skin, sweat glands. That all occurs based on what you think or feel, and what's going on and what you're perceiving, but it's a response. It's not an actual feeling. And the reason that that's important is when you start recognizing feelings, feelings are the sensations that you feel in your physical body. So you start using it and recognizing that, how to use it to your advantage. Well, if your body feels a physical sensation of pain, well, you want to deal with the issue, right? Might be complicated, but you'll try. Okay. Well, what about if you feel the sensation of being cold? Your mind is like, oh, okay, the body's cold. Let's find a blanket or warmth or of a jacket, something. Your mind is going to start to try to solve the problem. So just like if you said, oh, man, I feel really hungry. The sensation of hunger, your mind says, okay, well, let's go find some food. Let's solve this problem. So as soon as you start to identify the emotional feeling that's uncomfortable, your mind will do the same by trying to solve it. And that's where we come back to say stress. Your mind can't solve stress. It's like having the app with your phone just spinning and spinning. It can't solve it because stress itself is not a problem it can solve. So what do? Well, you take a step back and slow it down. And just like I gave you the physical sensations, you can also have emotional sensations. Now, this is going to take a little bit more work on your part because there are, over 3,000 words in the English dictionary that represent our feelings, and really they're emotion words. So when you're experiencing a sensation, a feeling, the emotion feeling word is really just how to change that sensation of a feeling into a word that can be communicated. That's an emotion feeling word. So they are not the same thing, but that's where people use the word feeling and emotions interchangeably, but they're slightly different. So here's where I want you to start. If you have children, you will understand this, okay? When my daughter was born, this baby, and she's crying, and I was a good mom. I could figure out what she needed and take care of her. But when she turned about 3, 4, and started to develop language, I became an awesome mom. Why? Because I didn't have to guess when she was upset and needed something. So as a parent, have you ever heard the word HALT? The HALT principle, right? So HALT is to take a pause, right? Slowing down, taking a pause. And what does that do? It helps you start to identify some of the 4 most basic, most common things that make us feel upset. And they are hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And if you've asked your child this, are you hungry, angry, lonely, tired? Then you get to be super mom to be like, are you? I can answer that for you. I can do that for you. I can solve it for you. Well, the same thing you're going to do for yourself. So when you start to feel upset, there are 2 things that you need to do. You start to look at, there are 2 categories, right? So if you have a physical sensation and the emotional sensation, it'll start to give your mind guidance how to solve the problem for you. So when you start with hunger, is going to be physical sensation. Anger is going to be an emotional. Lonely is emotional. Tired is physical. So I want you to start with making a list with 2 columns for yourself and really start to think about, well, what is it that you are feeling? What is the sensation? Is it a physical sensation or an emotional one? And when you get to an emotional one, anger, okay. Are you really angry though, or are you irritated? Are you annoyed? Or are you outraged? Because they are similar, but just variations of intensity. And the better you are at identifying and giving the right word to what you feel, your mind is going to be able to say, okay, I will help you solve it. And it will. I know, and it's like magic. And it's not just magic, of course, it's fun, but there's something very, there's a strength and a sense of powerfulness of being able to solve a problem for yourself without acting and reacting and feeling lost and confused, okay? Although those are good emotion words too, if that's what you feel. So this is where you're going to start. Make 2 columns, physical and emotional sensations, and go ahead and fill out the list and keep it running for a few days or a few months, because what you'll find is you'll see patterns. And when you start to see the patterns emotionally of what gets triggered most often, that will be a way for your soul, your GPS, to guide you about what's the issue and where to go looking for solutions. So I hope that this helps. I have a complete PDF list that you are welcome to download, and you can have it. It is in the Untamed and Prosperous community page, so you can go ahead and find everything there and a lot of other resources too. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that this was helpful a little bit. And if you could do me a favor, of course, always trying to fight the algorithms. So if you can leave me a comment or a question or a like, if you found that this was helpful for you and you want to share it, please do. And I'd love to hear your feedback and be able to go from there. So I'm Dr. Natasha Nelson, your life doctor. And until next time, live life untamed.